Very good afternoon, my dear friends. Welcome to our online free coaching for plant sciences, Government Degree College for Women Jagityal, RBVR Women's College Autonomous Hyderabad, and SRR Government Arts and Science College Karimnagar. So these tri colleges going to conduct this national online coaching in free of cost. My dear friends, utilize this wonderful opportunity. Today's resource person, eminent personality, Dr. P. Manjula Madam Garu, Assistant Professor, Department of Botany, RBVR Women's College, Hyderabad. Madam is going to explain today's class continuation, that is Ecology and Biodiversity. Madam, please you start the session and start your screen share.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, good afternoon, my dear students. So in yesterday's class, we discussed about the levels of ecosystem and also types of ecosystem. So today's class, we will discuss about the components of ecosystem. Okay, so components of ecosystem, generally in any ecosystems, it consists of two types of factors, that is living organisms and...
Madam, sorry for the disturbance. Please click on slideshow if possible.
Now, is it okay, sir?
Yes, madam. Please proceed.
Okay, okay, sir. So components of ecosystem. So generally any ecosystem, so it consists of two types of organisms, that is living and non-living. So abiotic and biotic components. So abiotic means, so these are the non-living components. So consist of non-living, that is chemical and physical components such as water, air, nutrients in the soil, and also water and solar energy. So these all are comes under the abiotic factors. So physical and chemical factors that influence the living organisms in land or aquatic life zone. So it is called as the abiotic factors. So abiotic components are mainly two types, that is climatic factors and edaphic factors. So here climatic factors, which includes rain, temperature, light, and wind, whereas the edaphic factors, that is soil, pH, and topography, that is layers of the soil and also minerals which are present in the soil. So all soil particles and structure of the soil particle all comes under here edaphic factors. So biotic components, so biotic factors, so all living organisms that directly or indirectly affect the ecosystem. So all living organisms comes under the biotic factors. So the biotic factors which interact with other living organisms and other living organisms and physical environment, and can also limit the factors. For example, here disease or predators or food resources. So based on, so if the more organisms are there, so here there is a competition for resources. So made up of biological components, the living and dead plants, so animals and microorganisms. So the major biological components of the ecosystem are, first one is the producers. So producers, they are also known as the autotrophs. So make their own food from the compounds and that are obtained from their environment. So are the source of all food in an ecosystem. So producers are the main source for food for all other organisms. So autotrophs means they synthesize their own food material. So generally all plants and the lower organism like algae all comes under producers. So in open water, in fresh water, so for example, here on the land, most of the producers are green plants. Whereas in freshwater and in marine ecosystems, so algae and plants are the major producers. And in open water, the dominant producers are phytoplanktons, that is most of the microscopic and that float or drift in the water. So most producers capture sunlight to make carbohydrates such as glucose by photosynthesis. So here the producers are these are the main important compounds. So all other living organisms mainly dependent on these producers. So here the producers, that is the producers, they are also known as autotrophs. So here the autotrophs based on the ecosystem. So here the autotrophs may be varies. So in the general in the land, most of the autotrophs are generally autotrophs are called as green plants are the autotrophs in land ecosystem, whereas in grassland ecosystem, grasses are the autotrophs. And in freshwater and in marine ecosystem, algae and lower plants which are living near the water bodies, so they are the producers. So all plants and grasses and algae comes under autotrophs. So here in open water, so the dominant producers are phytoplanktons, means so these are the most of them are microscopic, and that is lower algae comes under here. So most producers capture sunlight to make the carbohydrates by photosynthesis. So second one is the, so in the biotic, first one is the producer, second one is the consumer. So producers also known as the autotrophs, whereas the consumers, they are known as the heterotrophs. So hetero means other, and trophs means feeder. So they feed on others, so they are called as the heterotrophs. So get their energy and nutrients by feeding on other organisms or their remains. And here again, these consumers are again classified into different types. So first one is the primary consumers. So primary consumers means, so these are the that eat only producers. So those are that the organisms which mainly eat on producers. The main source of primary consumers are the producers, so they are called as the primary consumers, and they're also known as the herbivores. So herbivores means they're only dependent on the plants or producers, so they are called as the herbivores. So these herbivores are the primary consumers. So next one is the secondary consumers, or they are also known as the carnivores, so eat other animals. The organisms which dependent on other organisms for food, so they are called as the secondary consumers or carnivores. And next one is the tertiary consumers. So tertiary consumers, so they are large carnivores which feed on secondary consumers. So tertiary consumers, they dependent on the secondary consumers for their energy or food. So quaternary consumers. So quaternary consumers, so these are the largest carnivores and that feed on tertiary consumers. So they are not eaten by any animals. So next one is the omnivores. So omnivores means they have a mixed diet, that is they include both plants and animals. So they eat both plants and animals. So here which is ready, so they can eat that one. So omnivores. So they can dependent on both producers, that is autotrophs and also other consumers. So here omnivores examples are human beings and other animals comes under here omnivores. So here herbivores, main examples for herbivores are cow, goat. So this comes under, so they only dependent on the plants. So they are called as the herbivores. So last one is the decomposers. So producers, consumers and decomposers. Producers, they produce the food. Consumers, they consume the food which is produced by the autotrophs. Whereas the decomposer dead organic matter. So mostly certain types of bacteria and fungi are specialized consumers, and they recycle the organic matter in the ecosystem. So they do this by breaking down, that is biodegrading the dead organic material to get the nutrients and releasing the resulting simple inorganic compounds into soil and water. So where they can be taken up as a nutrient by producers. So here the decomposers. So decomposers, examples for decomposers are generally microorganisms. So they like bacteria. So they will decompose the dead organic matter. So after death and decay of these plants and animals, so they will be decomposed by these microorganisms, and they convert this complex organic matter into simple matter, and that is toxic to harmless material. So they can be again utilized by other producers. So here the decomposers plays important role to maintain the ecological balance. So they consume or eat dead plants and animals and decompose them and reduce them to simple forms of matter. So examples for decomposers are fungi and bacteria. So these are the components, that is biotic components. So biotic lo first one is producers, second one is consumers, and third one is the decomposers. Producers also known as autotrophs. So they can synthesize their own food materials, whereas the consumers, they're dependent on the other living organisms for food. So next one is, so again here in the consumers, again they are classified into different types, like primary consumers. Primary consumers only dependent on the plants for food, whereas the secondary consumers, they dependent on the they only eat animals. So they are called as the secondary consumers are carnivores, and tertiary consumers, these are the large carnivores which feed on the secondary consumers, and quaternary consumers, so they are the largest carnivores and that feed on tertiary consumers. So here omnivores means, so they can eat both plants and animals, so they are called as the omnivores. So this is the components of ecosystem. So next topic is food chain.